right. Well, Ashley, should we get started here? Just tell me when.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. And hey, just one little etiquette thing, since we have a lot of people in a virtual online meeting. If you're not talking, can you please put yourself on mute so that who knows? We've all heard it all now. Dogs, the Amazon guys here. That'll really help. But I just want to thank you all for getting together today here. Believe it or not, it's already December 14th. We're past the Thanksgiving break, and we're getting close to our upcoming winter break, which starts next week. And I hope that really gives everybody, or at least many of us, as much time as possible to kind of recharge our batteries. We've been, you can go to the next slide, Ashley, while I talk. We've been living through, as you know, an absolutely unprecedented period of time. Back to March and the tornadoes, and then a bunch of radical changes to our very existence due to COVID. And I think that this particular annual edition of our recognition ceremony is extra special because while in any given year across our division, there are always such a wide range of outstanding accomplishments to talk about and to highlight. None of those prior years, at least in my view, from right now, can come close to what we as a division have accomplished over the course of however many months it's been since March. So some of those people will be recognized along with others. And I won't be doing all of the talking today, so that's good news. I'm gonna, after these opening remarks, recognize some members of the division, and then I'm gonna turn it over to a range of our colleagues here, including August and Laura Neyron, Stephanie Roth, I think Mike Perez and Mark Petty will also present some of these awards. So once again, thank you for being here. And Ashley, let's please move to the next slide. So the first group, and this is one where I said I'm dying to do this one. The Public Health Central Command Center, and you see 4 names on here: Andrea George, Jessamine Davis, Stephen Guild, and Chelsea Hamilton. I have spent a lot of time with this group, and the efforts of this team during COVID are absolutely foundational and of critical importance to everything we've been doing to keep the university as safe as possible and frankly to keep the university open. It is no exaggeration whatsoever that without the help and support of this team, we would not have completed our fall semester as successfully as we did. We would have either not been able to open at all, or we would have had to close early. And to enable that, all of these people and more have spent, truly countless hours of their lives. They do everything from look over daily test results and all of the necessary follow-up that enables contact tracing when there are positives, the multitude and range of notifications that occur across the institution when there is a positive case. They activate cleaning protocols as necessary. They deal with incoming questions from everyone from board members to community members to students. It's really incredible what they do and the thought leadership that they've provided. And I think everybody's done an extraordinary job. I want to give Andrea a particular shout out. She's the co-leader of the Central Command Center and works very closely with Pam Jones from our School of Nursing. Nobody has worked more hours since March than Andrea George, but she's closely followed by her colleagues Jessamine Davis, Steve Guild, and Chelsea Hamilton. August and team have been kind enough to kind of lend us Jessamine, whose work in emergency preparedness has come in really handy. She too has done just an extraordinary job Steve and Chelsea. When you're not busy working on sustainability initiatives, we're keeping you very busy working in the Public Health Central Command Center. Again, I just want to underscore this team deserves great recognition and great kudos. And they've never really, we were hoping to get a break. We're just really sort of shifting gears because even with the students gone, they're still tracking all of the COVID cases from staff and faculty or any other students who are around that are being reported, test results from student health and OC health. And we're staring down a period of time as we look forward in the not too distant future at all to reopening or bringing our students back in the winter semester, the spring semester, really, I should say, at a scenario that's really going to be challenging because of the caseloads nationally and the even more stringent and high volume testing that we're going to be doing. But I know this team can handle it. They have been battle tested and they have done just an absolutely extraordinary job. So I wish we had a way to turn on everybody's microphone so that everyone could go here, or send a cheer. But I just want to say again, thank you to the Public Health Central Command Center. Here's another one, testing support. Here we call out two key players, Matthew Buckley and Carmen Marks. We did a whole, Matthew, I mean, I think Matthew gets, I was calling Matthew everywhere from 5 in the morning and meeting him over at Chestnut to pick up test kits to, talking about deliveries of test kits to the Blair School, tracking down orders on trucks. I mean, whatever it was, Matthew always picked up and Matthew was always on top of it. And he continues to do that. He's helped keep inventories of all of our tests. He's helped set up and run and schedule deliveries and make sure the testing center, that getting the tests from the testing center out to the airplanes to get to the labs are working. He also led all kinds of work related to student belongings early on, where we had to store things at the stadium club and many more things. I mean, Matthew, you are a stalwart and we wouldn't be here without you. I'm glad we haven't had to talk a lot in the last couple of weeks, but we'll be talking a lot more soon as the students come back, and your help and your role have just been absolutely foundational. And then Carmen Marks, I also want to recognize. Carmen, what a pleasure it's been for me to get to work with you over the course of the semester. And once again, I'm going to thank August, whose team has demonstrated our values of flexibility once again by allocating to our central efforts outstanding people like Carmen. For those of you who don't know, Carmen, is in VUPS, and she really oversaw the entirety of the testing center operations on a day-to-day basis over the course of the fall semester. I can't remember how many days we were open, but it was something like 13 or 14 weeks for 6 days a week with a couple of variations. So that's a lot of hours and that's a lot of volume. We had, we conducted about 90,000 COVID tests there over the course of the fall. That's a huge volume. And Carmen, you handled, this is managing, 1,000+ people coming there every day, making sure everything is orderly, handling with Matthew some of the inventory questions, answering questions, making sure everybody's showing up, the doors are open, and on and on and on. You did that with such grace. And that's what I really appreciate. You really stood out to me, Carmen, because not only of the outstanding work you did, but you were under a lot of pressure and you just handled it with such aplomb. And so I just want to say again, thank you, and more to come as we look forward to the spring semester. So leadership support and new programs. This is another one of our award categories that I'll talk about here, and I'm going to call out Michael Briggs and Ashley from my team. So Ashley isn't just good at running the slides, she's good at everything she does. And let me start with Michael Briggs. So Michael, I forget how long it's been since you joined our team, but it seems like just yesterday, but you've accomplished a great deal. And Michael is involved in a really wide range of projects under our Move VU program, our Comprehensive Transportation and Mobility program. And that includes the launch of daily parking and management of the VU Commute Hub. He works with August and team and Aaron on the Vandy Ride service improvements and some of the adjustments we made during COVID. Michael helped sponsor a number of what are called Vision Zero webinars. And these are centered around the notion of how do we make the Nashville streets safe and basically get to a place where no pedestrian should ever be dying from a car or a truck or any kind of vehicular accident, as well as, efforts to adapt and better align our transportation modes and our programs to our long-term really goals and values. And I understand from some notes here that Michael, bless him, also manages the Move VU program email account and responds to questions and inquiries on a daily basis, and that's no small task. So I wanted to call this out in spite of COVID, and in part because of COVID, we've made some dramatic evolutions here. And Michael, you've been a big part of that. So thank you very much. And then Ashley, Ashley does all kinds of things. And one, all of the ways in which she's stepped up that are so recognition worthy at this point is that she attends, well, they're not daily now, but throughout the course of the entire semester, actually dating back all the way back into the summer as we were getting ready to reopen the campus, we would have daily meetings with leadership. So this would be the provost and I, various other vice chancellors, so, all kinds of people, Pam, Andrea, August is there, all kinds of people just talking about everything related to the university's COVID response, the public, the health conditions, positives, and trying to keep a group like that, in line, but then also documenting the decisions and the discussion points is not an easy task. And Ashley kind of stepped right in, just like so many other people just kind of stepped right in. She attended all these meetings. And by the way, by daily, I don't just mean Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Those were some of our best editions. So, rain or shine every day, these meetings. And Ashley would take masterful notes that captured all the nuances and would also act as kind of a taskmaster to make sure that things that were follow-ups and needed to be completed were being followed up on. And meanwhile, she continues to do all kinds of other non-COVID related things. She's helping me on a range of fronts that are too numerous for me to right now. But she's also worked, among those many things where Ashley demonstrated her leadership is she continues to work with Mike, who we just mentioned earlier, on many of the Move VU projects. I could go on, but I just want to say thank you. Ashley, your recognition is really, really well deserved, and you're such an important part of the team. So with that said, I am now, I think, going to turn over for the next slide, the floor to Mike Perez and Mark Petty. And once again, thank you so much for being here today, everybody.
Eric, I think we're actually going to pivot to August Washington first.
Looks okay. August, you're on. Thanks, Ashley.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you, Eric. And I actually, shared Eric's sentiments on so many people have worked so diligently throughout this process to just, make things work for the university. First, I want to start off by recognizing some of the people from BUPS, and I want to start off with recognizing Captain LaShawn Oliver and from our EP team, Brittany Watley. LaShawn and Brittany kind of tag teamed a new operation that actually was written about even in the Chronicle of Higher Education, our Public Health Ambassador Program. And it was a new program to VUPS and Vanderbilt, but it has worked really good for us. LaShawn worked daily as the daily operations leader of the PHA program, which was launched to guide the university community in practicing healthy behaviors during the COVID-19 pandemic. Brittany worked as the project manager and as well as oversaw the volunteer PHA program and worked with LaShawn to develop daily and weekly reports that included data on the number of face masks distributed, positive community interactions, issued reports, and more. They both worked with VU Communications to develop language on a return to campus website. And Brittany actually took a lead in developing that website and the programs, as well as even the attire for the PHAs, and trained our CSOs and volunteer PHAs. One of the things that we took on this semester is all of our CSOs were trained as public health ambassadors, and Brittany was instrumental in working with Tamara and others to develop that program, and as well as worked with LaShawn on presenting the program. So thank you to Brittany and LaShawn for having a top-notch program. One of the things I often tell our teammates is I'm being called all over the country right now, and one of the main things people are asking us about is our PHA program. So, Vanderbilt's got a lot of recognition from that. Eric and I worked with University of North Carolina, and they had great interest in the program. And I've recently been contacted by Cornell University, who wants to know about our PHA program. Another individual I would like to recognize as a part of a team is Shanithia Lewis. And Shanithia normally works, as everyone knows, with her teammate, Corporal Jack. And Shanithia was one of the first law enforcement officers and first members of our public health ambassador program. And she really took a lead in kind of being a field operator for that program and developed a form of security, a security forum for the PHA members to streamline the COVID-19 response systems. She helped identify large traffic areas and also came up with remedies to issue in and around Rand and Martha Rivers Ingram Commons area. Throughout the planning process, a lot of Shanithia's input worked well in our daily operation of the PHA program. Another individual I'd like to recognize is kind of known as the get it done guy is our Major Corin Thomas. And Corin is the guy that when you really need to get something done and kind of get through the weeds on things, whether it's working with the city or working with other partners from plan ops to other individuals of Vanderbilt, he's a person that you can rely on and just really go out and get it done. Corin managed the medical transports for the PHA, the Public Health Ambassadors team. He provided, he assisted with test kit delivery and pickup. He manages the Vandy Ride service, including the point-to-point service, which is our new service that really worked well this semester. And while doing so, Corin worked as the director of our parking and transportation operation. And as I said, Corin's always just a really good person that you can rely on. He's one of these individuals that, throughout the term, when we really needed something done, you didn't have to think about a job description or anything like that. He really went out and just got the job done. And so kudos to Corin, and we often and will continue to rely on him. Another individual is an individual that works a lot behind the scene, has been Todd William Todd Anderson. And Todd works with our vehicles, and a lot of people don't realize we have a number of vehicles, and he usually works in the supply area of keeping things up to speed, making sure that we have, proper equipment. He worked diligently not to only maintain a consistent supply of products to ensure the cleanliness of our vehicles and our vehicle fleet, as well as different areas of the department. But he also worked with the public health ambassador to make sure they had the golf carts that they utilized for transportation. He supplied gloves, disinfectant wipes, sprays, sanitizer, and all the needs that the officers and CSOs needed to be safe and allow our students to be safe during our transportation. And Todd's another one of those guys, whenever you call, he's ready to serve. And so we truly appreciate William Todd Anderson. Next slide. Another individual I want to recognize as a leader in our organization is Chief Ricky Burr. Chief Burr is one of these individuals that I rely a lot on for what I call a major part of our technical aspect of VUPS and to really get things done. I'm pulled in so many different ways, and Chief Burr is one of these guys I can just kind of punch something to him and he jumps in there and really finds a way to get it done. As Eric was talking earlier about the number of meetings that we had throughout the semester, 7 days a week, Chief Burr attended all of those daily meetings and gave leadership updates and even recommendations on how to deal with the daily issues that we face related to the return to campus programs relating to COVID-19. As always, I look at Chief Burr and I say this often and to him that he's my right hand in making sure that things get done. And so there's great appreciation for Chief Burr. Another individual that works behind the scene, but just is absolutely just valuable is Lieutenant Marcia Hayes of our CIU, our Criminal Investigation Unit. You know, a lot of people understand that we do a lot of video monitoring, and Marcia Hayes is kind of our resident expert in finding things and taking care of business when it comes to utilizing our technology to assist VUPS as a, you know, as a force multiplier. We have over 2,000 cameras throughout the campus, and Marcia probably can name each one of them off the top of her head. And she, throughout the semester, anytime there was an issue relating to trying to make the place safer, we turned to Marcia to utilize the technology as an asset for VUPS. And as always, for all of our investigatory needs, we truly appreciate what Marcia brings to the table. And she's I often refer to her as just an absolute star in detective. So great appreciation for Marcia Hayes. Another individual, most people would refer to her as Lieutenant Angela King, but I just want to notify everyone that Lieutenant King has recently been promoted effective December 1 to Captain Angela King, which is we're very proud of. And Angela King worked throughout this past semester almost every Friday and Saturday night. And one of the things I remember a conversation I recently had with, I said, look, when you're there on Fridays and Saturday night, I sleep better. And there's so many things that can go wrong on a Friday or Saturday night during these times. And she, not only did she work on Fridays and Saturday nights, she often worked beyond her normal hours to assist with the shift supervisors with dealing with COVID-related calls, to assist with the additional staffing. And she, you know, also often traveled off-campus locations where students were housed this semester and provided guidance about Vanderbilt return to campus policy. And she also often was the first officer to respond to these calls and dealt with issues. And even when our students put themselves in danger by being in places they shouldn't be, Angela was always willing not only to show up, and her intent was not to just identify violations, but to encourage compliance and to work with our young people on being safe. So great kudos and true appreciation to Angela King. And the other individual I'd like to recognize, who's just an absolute value to the public safety team. You know, one of the things we often worried about this year is that we are a department that have to respond to a lot of issues related to COVID-19 or individuals who were infected with the virus. And we were often worried about our teammates. And VUPS had an advantage over most public safety departments throughout the country, is that we had what I think is a resident expert in dealing with and understanding CDC and EPA guidelines. and understanding and being able to educate our officers on cleaning and disinfecting, and to do things to minimize the possibility of being affected by the COVID-19 virus. Tamara Cooley is that individual, and she's the person that whenever I even have this feeling that we're kind of getting a little lax, Tamara steps in and is willing to educate and to re-educate our teammates. And our teammates respect what Tamara brings to the table. And she often, does a lot of work and making sure even that we keep up to date with our PPE as well as other supplies needed. Tamara also manages the temperature screening program for minimum risk to individuals and groups around campus. And one of the things that we saw is that temperature screening was an early indicator of individuals, could be being affected by the virus. And Tamara was one of the early individuals who came up with that we should do temperature monitoring of our staff, which we think worked well for us. So again, I can't say enough of the thank you to Tamara for being a part of the VUPS team, and with great appreciation. So with that, I would end with say to all our personnel that was listed in this recognition, but also to all of the men and women of Vanderbilt Public Safety that come to work each and every day on campus and do the things to minimize the possibility of people being injured or affected by the virus, and just making Vanderbilt a safe place. So thank you, guys.
And Ashley, I think I'm up next.
Oh yeah, I think over to Laura.
Yep, I'm trying to advance the slide. It's just not letting me do it. So give me 1 second.
Oh, no, that's fine. Ah, perfect. Thank you so much, Ashley. So these are 3 faces that I'm sure you all recognize: Mark Brown, to his right, Cleo Rucker, and Kylie Stokes. I'm going to move fairly swiftly because we have a lot of folks to recognize. And so I do want to begin by saying, please don't let the speed with which and the brevity with which I acknowledge all of you make it appear that the depth of our appreciation isn't there. I am trying to get through these quickly enough that we can recognize everyone, but these are just all outstanding contributions. I think all of us could spend an entire hour on just the folks on our team. So Cleo, Kylie, and Mark are kind of top on our list for people in business services. In card services, so you all may be familiar with the project that card services took on that would allow you to use your iPhone or your Apple Watch as your credential. It's in a contactless way. So that was already rolling out, but they really drove hard to expedite the process because now going contactless in a pandemic was that much more important. This on top of partnering, as Eric had mentioned previously, with Ashley and Michael and Aaron on the daily parking program and the cards use of getting into the garages. And then also Mazik Care, which is the app that we use for contact tracing. Mark was very involved in helping set up all the data feeds to that and getting that stood up. And we don't stand up applications. You know, we usually have this very thoughtful rollout of testing and progress and all this. We needed to move very quickly on this. So I know there was a lot of effort from all involved on that project. Cleo, everyone knows Cleo. I frequently say, even if you don't like HR, everybody likes Cleo. Cleo he's the embodiment of the one Vanderbilt spirit. He works across all of the areas of the university. And nobody ever lobs Cleo an easy question. The issues that he has to navigate are always, they require a great deal of integrity and judiciousness. And he's always thoughtful and wise and responsive, and especially so with all of the issues that came up to our attention in HR with working remotely and accommodations and how to navigate tricky things that we haven't really had, certainly not to the degree that we've had during the pandemic. And then Kylie, we plug Kylie into so many places. She's like a one Vanderbilt within people in business services. We've had to, she's been integral in developing and implementing COVID-19 policies and procedures, attending to employee needs, because we know that it's a very stressful time. We're working very, very differently than we normally do. Maintaining a good relationship with the union, because that population was very much affected by working on campus. And at a time when employee immigration services, which Kylie also oversees, was in a lot of turmoil with international travel and visa challenges. So Kylie is also very broad across our areas, and we're so appreciative of all of the work that she's done during this pandemic response. So moving on to the next slide. So campus dining, you can imagine dining looked very, very different this year and had to, and there was a lot of thought put into how it is we feed students. So I do want to call out Aaron, Michael, Gail, and Don, who worked incredibly hard to make sure. A lot of us thought, you know, in March, it felt like all the students left. Well, many, many didn't. Many remained on campus, could not leave, and we had to figure out how we were going to feed them. How we could support other folks who are working on campus and facilities and public safety to feed them, and really to reimagine the locations that we have. What would the circulation plans be? What would the menus be? How would folks pick things up to go? I mean, this really caused dining to kind of reinvent the way that they do what they do. And so just really want to acknowledge these incredible assistant directors for their creativity and ingenuity. Triquetta, we're so excited, was recognized recently as well by the chancellor. Triquetta is a COVID ambassador who always with a very kind heart, educated dining guests on the new circulation plans. People like me who think that, oh, I'm going to go back over here, and we've had to be gently reminded there's one way, always with a smile, and really helped folks easily navigate, folks that were coming in to get food, the new circulation plans, and make sure that they were following best practices to keep us all safe. And then Suzette, my daughter will be very happy to know Suzette was recognized because she adores Suzette from her many times on campus as a camper. But Suzette was also, or is also a COVID ambassador, and encouraged people to wear their face mask properly, social distance, giving directions, how to find hand sanitizer, all the things that we have to do that are different from our normal processes of going into dining. And when you get direction from Triquetta and Suzette, it's, you know, it's always, again, very warm, very friendly, and very supportive as we navigate this new normal. And then also Jay Spiegel, we're so appreciative to Jay. There was such a crunch on trying to find PPE at the start of the pandemic. And Jay was really involved in helping us procure gloves and masks when they were really, really hard to get. So kudos to Jay. This was beyond his normal work of all of the things that dining normally buys, for rooting out and helping support safety and health through his work to secure PPE. And then in the Vanderbilt Child and Family Centers, again, this is, none of us work the way that we did pre-COVID. And you can imagine working with children, working with with parents, trying to navigate what this looks like in a safe way. Brian made it so much fun. I really encourage you, you can go to YouTube and find Brian's songs and videos on how to properly wear a mask. Feel free to share that with adults in your lives who don't remember that it goes over your nose. And made it really, really fun. I think so often children that are in the Acorn School, just not being together is really difficult. And it's pretty cool to see your teacher online singing a song. So Brian, your creativity, making that fun, making it approachable, and keeping that connection is so, so important. And then we have our trauma-informed design care group. So Jamie, Toya, Bethany, Jaslyn, Kelsey, Sierra, and Darcia. You know, again, trying to think about how do we support families during this time? What specific activities and resources for Acorn School teachers could be provided to support children and parents as they're managing these life challenges due to COVID-19, and specifically addressing children's social and emotional growth and development. This team really came together to address the stress that teachers were feeling by naming it, by creating meaningful supports and activities around that, And that is so commendable. Again, everyone has risen to the challenge with a great deal of ingenuity, creativity, and responsiveness. So we are so grateful and proud of all of them. And then I believe I'm turning it over at the next slide to Stephanie.
Thank you, Laura. Well, I have the great honor to speak about the leadership that Anita Genius in Equal Opportunity and Access and Bati Carabel during her time with Title IX provided over these last several months, along with all the other fantastic folks we're hearing about today. Anita led the team in partnership with HR and digital strategies to create an entirely new process, form, and workflow for accommodations. As you can imagine, when we made the move to a different way of working, some of us full-time remote, some folks fully on campus, other teams deployed in new and different ways, we had a lot of folks for whom there were challenges or issues that needed to be navigated with respect to how to work based on a variety of conditions and responsibilities that they had in their own lives. Anita and her team took a leadership role in responding to that. For many of these folks, this is the first time they worked with an accommodation process. So Anita's team worked to streamline that process as much as possible, to keep it as clean and focused as possible, and then implemented a response process that was much faster even than we're accustomed to make sure folks knew that we were receiving their requests, we were processing those requests. And then we were working with key leaders, again, heavily with HR and the fantastic team over there. Also with our deans and faculty leadership, we were in constant communication. I say we, meaning Anita and her folks, in constant communication with the deans and other leaders to ensure they had the support and guidance they needed for the decisions they were needing to make, and also receiving real-time information about staffing levels and requested accommodations or other workplace adjustments to permit as many people as possible to be engaged and provide the learning, living, research environment we needed for our faculty, staff, and students. Anita worked throughout all this time with the support of her team, and she in turn supported them. I mentioned for a lot of folks was that this was their first time engaging in the accommodation process. There are some folks that struggled to maintain their own professionalism as they navigated those waters, and Anita and her team did not. They maintained an extraordinary level of professionalism as folks who were feeling all the concerns that we all felt as we navigated, again, the waters of COVID and work and family and other responsibilities. And I know it will not surprise you to hear that Anita did all this with her usual equanimity and good humor. And it was a joy to be able to work with her as she led that team in responding to support all the folks on campus and off who make up the university community. Moving to Batia Carabel. So this is a little different. Part of it relates to COVID. We moved all of the investigations, as did Anita's team, online. So Batia is leading our Title IX office as our assistant director at the time, as our director position was vacant. So she was navigating all those investigations. I'm using that word several times because it just feels like everything, I'm going to say unprecedented 10 times too. Everything felt new during this time period. And she kept that afloat and going as we received in the Title IX world comprehensive new federal regulations that required significant overhaul of our policies and processes on a 3-month timeline in the midst of COVID protocols. Department of Education just leaned into those changes and said we could do it. So Batia was a critical part of the team that came together to ensure that that happened. Again, she was working to support the office as not only the new regulations were rolling out, and we had meeting after meeting about that, but as we had attrition within the Title IX office. And we are thrilled that folks found new and exciting opportunities, but the burden that that placed on her just increased and increased as the months passed. But she continued to forge ahead. And even also as she was balancing new expectations, you may have heard, because she's been in the position for a couple of months now, but Bati has accepted a position as our senior administrative officer in the new equal access space, continuing to work with Title IX, but now also working with EOA and with student access. So we're thrilled that we get to continue to enjoy the benefits of Batia's leadership in this new role. And I just could not be more thankful for her work as, again, staffing levels decreased, expectations increased, and all of this was happening amidst COVID. She just stepped up, and I, again, can't say enough good things about the work that Anita and Batia have done over this past year. And I think Mike Perez, are you next?
I think that's me, Stephanie. Thank you. Appreciate it. So as Ashley has taken us there to our facilities section, I just wanted to pause here and before I talk about the facilities organization, just thank everybody within the division. The other term you hear a lot is stepping up, and we anchor down and step up. And the division in particular, from my perspective, has just been remarkable. And I think we have been, in large part, the glue that have really enabled the university to be successful in the fall semester. And we will do so in the spring. So I'm just really humbled by being a part of this organization, this division, and likewise, just appreciative of everyone that's been mentioned here to date. And then the broader division, many of the folks that aren't being specifically called out, but I know for sure in the facilities organization, and probably is the case for all the others, that everybody has just done a fabulous job. So with respect to facilities, as I mentioned, everyone within the organization has stepped up, especially as we're performing our essential functions. And having said this, I'm excited to acknowledge and share with you 43 service champions within facilities that have really extended themselves beyond the call of duty. And so, as Laura mentioned, I have a number of people here, so brevity is not at all equated to our sincere appreciation of you. But you can see the names here of a number of folks within operations. And on the top left, it was really funny because August mentioned earlier about his reliance on Ricky. Well, Eric and I, and probably everybody else on campus, relies on Mark Petty, quite honestly. Mark has and continues to provide constant and consistent leadership. And he especially did that during this pandemic. He's been on campus most every workday. And the days that he isn't here, he has typically some real reason for being away with respect to family conditions, health in the family and the like. But if that isn't the case, he's always going to be here on campus, and it's just been really a rock, a really solid person for the organization. He keeps his team updated and abreast of all the tasks that need to be completed. And he's also very instrumental in implementing the procedures and protocols that we've had to institute during this pandemic. Mark and his team led a variety of important efforts, from working closely with facilities officers, our partners throughout campus, on classroom usage and capacity of various spaces as part of the fall planning. As you'll hear me talk more later, his team also installed wayfinding and signage throughout campus. And as you can imagine, on a university our size, with the millions of square feet and the acres that we have out there, that was no small task. That was a huge task. And others within the organization, but especially Mark and his team, really enabled us to be successful in that regard. We also facilitated student room consolidation efforts. And on the fly, we developed changes in our cleaning protocols, all while CDC guidelines seem to change every other week. But Mark has just been stellar. He's a rock. He is my right arm man, and I think the right arm man to many other people on campus as well. So Mark, well done. Lamar works 7 days a week often. It's not unusual for him to work days on end, weeks on end, amongst all 3 shifts. We have 3 shifts here within the custodial organization. And even through the graveyard shift, it's not uncommon to see Lamar here amongst them, which is obviously well and beyond the call of duty. And Lamar also personally oversaw the disinfection, especially early on, of all the child care centers and the Mayfield apartments. So we couldn't do it without Lamar. He's just fabulous. Chris Mike and Michael were instrumental in developing and managing unique efforts over these last several months. I say unique because, you know, it's doing things that are typically outside, not typically, definitely outside the normal facilities organization process. Chris oversaw a student room consolidation process, and he developed the tracking sheets used to inventory student belongings before packing. Now, these are the students who left early in the spring semester, last spring semester when the pandemic hit. They just left and left all their stuff here. And we had to consolidate it, store it for them. And it was just a very, very difficult task. Chris developed this inventory and tracking system, as I mentioned, that was able to consolidate it, identify it, store it, and then have it available for retrieval by the students. He also did tracking or set up inventory and tracking for building inspections. Another effort that facilities had to build on the fly, and we weren't able to do that unless there was some structure to that. And Chris allowed us to work in that regard. Mike took charge of creating and managing the storage facility for student belongings, and we did that in the former stadium club. And so Chris did the tracking mechanism. Mike set up the actual physical storage facility. He worked with vendors to procure and set up the warehouse. We call it the warehouse. He designed the layout of the facility, and he managed teams during the assembly of over 250 shelving units. This complex storage system received and helped inventory thousands of items that were organized for easy retrieval by the students. Again, this is a work function that is outside Mike, who is an engineer in the facilities organization. And he was able to do all this design and do it in ways to where it just worked really efficiently, and worked with Chris to make this a very highly successful endeavor. Michael created the method within the facilities AIM work order system for tracking personal belongings within student rooms. So now here's another segment of this whole process. And he managed a team that labeled over 1,300 rooms in preparation for the inventory of student belongings. So that trio was really instrumental in the success this past spring of managing personal and very, very important material by the students. And we did that in a very, very professional way by folks who had to do this on the fly. Darren and Damon worked as a team to identify and implement energy savings initiatives on campus during the time of low occupancy and on campus as the pandemic began. So we were having people work more remote or working remotely, obviously. And so resulting from that, there was less activity on campus. And so these two guys, along with others under their tutelage, they were able to develop setback protocols and joggle our control systems in ways to where we were saving enormous amounts of money over the summer and leading into the fall semester. Along with these two fine gentlemen, at the same time, Troy and his team were instrumental in creating schedules and performing HVAC setbacks across campus, again, to save energy and money. Brian directed the setback of numerous lighting control systems on campus, and resulting from this, again, additional energy savings. He also maintained a safe and clean and healthy work environment for his employees who have been working on campus on a daily basis. Christine went above and beyond to ensure that utility bills were paid during the pandemic. So we think about all the things that are happening on campus and all of the obvious things that we see, and yet equally important are things like paying utility bills. We had a process in doing that with our utility providers, typically, the arcane old method of receiving a bill in the mail and the like in some cases. But she worked behind the scenes tirelessly with our utility providers and payment services to find creative solutions to receive the bills and pay them electronically rather than by the normal process. So Christine just did a fabulous job in that regard. Scott worked tirelessly on the numerous personnel efforts that evolved during the confusing time of our work down phase during the pandemic. So as you remember, we didn't know exactly what was going to happen with the remote work. Do I stay home? Do I come to work? How is all that managed in the HR perspective? We're an organization of 470 strong, and he helped employees with things like leave of absence, alternative workplace paperwork. He collaborated with Laura's group in HR, or I guess it was Laura, and now it's Cleo and others folks, right? But with HR and all the union efforts, and he also helped us in detail as we handled VISDIP requests and the like. So Scott was that point person working with everybody in our organization to maneuver through all this in a very seamless way. He would call employees to assist them with their individual circumstances. So instead of employees having to wonder where I go, he would reach out to employees personally to help them work through whatever issues they had. And he also was very instrumental in many of our information sessions where we had teams of employees come in to understand what was going on and how they would manage their affairs and the like. So Scott, very, very instrumental. Thanks, Ashley. So then we come to circulation and signage, and you've heard others mention how this was very, very eventful and critical for our success this past fall. Well, Curtis, James, Shelby, and Megan were key. They were very, very instrumental members of the circulation team, and which also did the signage. This team planned, they designed, and they coordinated the installation of the circulation plans for the entirety of campus. Now, make sure you understand that. They started from scratch. There was no blueprint for how you did this. There was all this conversation amongst leadership and in other portions of the university about we need to do this, we need to do that. And so one of the big elements that everybody understood was that there needed to be a circulation plan. So these four folks in particular were, from my perspective, key players that really made the circulation plan happen. They were the folks who did a lot of the actual legwork. We had great participation from others on campus who served on that team. But these four were the ones who actually did a lot of the detail work. And as you can tell, they did a stellar job. Again, they planned it, they implemented it. And Megan and Curtis in particular were the leads of the interior circulation plan. Their efforts were very, very instrumental in developing all of that within the building. And then James Moore, he was in the landscape architect, or he is our landscape architect, and he worked with folks in the plant operations team to develop all of the plans on the exterior of campus. I might add that as they did all this, they also mapped it in GIS. And so with Curtis as one of our GIS technicians, we're able to map all the circulation plans, and all of those could be found on the university's COVID website. So if anybody were to want to know exactly how to get around, all of that was documented and put on the website. Their efforts, along with that of the entire circulation team, involved with people from across campus, were absolutely necessary in getting our campus ready for the fall semester. So great job to those four. Now, Ricky, Dylan, and Corey were instrumental in the implementation of the circulation plans. So they were supplemental, and beyond supplemental, they really helped the team in receiving the detailed design, and were able to apply all of the graphics, all of the signage, all of the directional stickers that were on the floors in the hallways, et cetera, to all of the 1 million square feet that we find on campus. They became so proficient at the installation of signs about midway that they were in stickers and the like, that they were able to do like a 50,000 square foot building in a few hours. So they just, and they were just fabulous. And then as we checked on the efficiency of the signs and the applicability of the signage, when you would walk through, and does it really make all the sense? Early in the process, we would find mistakes, we'd find different ways of doing things. they latched onto that. And as they, got a third of the way into the entire process, there were no mistakes. Things were just like, done. They put it down one time, it was solid, and it was just fabulous. And they just did a fantastic job. Next slide, please, Ashley. So then we looked to the outside, and Ryan and his team, which included Justin and Lee, who all of these guys helped James, as I mentioned earlier. This team installed all the outdoor signage and circulation paths. So after the students arrived for the fall semester, not only did they do that, but Ryan, Justin, and Lee were instrumental in setting up fences around the dining tents, as we thought that we needed to do that to attempt to manage the use of the tents. Then we took them down because we learned from that. But they were Johnny on the spot. Whenever we needed them to do things like that, they would show up with smiling faces and get things done. Then as we got into the fall semester, we realized that, we need to have a way in which we can show the student population in particular how they can use the lawns. So this trio then on a weekly basis typically painted hundreds of circles on our lawns every week for the entire fall semester. And if you walked out on campus, for those who have been on campus, you notice that there was always circles on the lawns. And as you also know, grass grows, we cut it. And so they were always, all the circles were disappearing, but they would go out there and reapply the circles, as you can see, as illustrated here in the graphics here. Great job by these three. So then we come to this team, and they continue to work nonstop to regularly disinfect the 3 million or so square feet on campus just in the academic arena. Now, they were often carrying around backpacks with disinfectant, and they have affectionately earned the name Ghostbusters. As you can see here, they include Anthony, Daryl, Terry, Larry, Janenia, John, Derek, Nelson, Shanda, and James. Now, their critical work helps to keep our campus community safe. Each receives specialized training for this assignment, and we are so grateful to them for their dedication, pride, and professionalism that they bring to work every day. Finally, our amazing housekeeper supervisors, these folks tend to our campus needs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They include, as you can see here, Marina, Lynn, Erica, Ricky, Aaron, Letitia, Beatrice, Chris, Katisha, Leo, Mamond, and Hobart. Now, they lead a group of individuals within the housekeeping force that ensure that the campus is clean, safe, healthy, and presentable for faculty, students, and staff. Now, I do understand that there was less population on campus, but there was also heightened concern and awareness on campus. And from my perspective, an amazing sign of success by this team is the fact that there was hardly any complaints or concerns about cleanliness or about the fact that a particular part of campus or a classroom on campus or an office or whatever was something less than stellar. And so these folks were really, really successful in that regard and really, really indebted to what all they have done. During the pandemic, this team was on the front line from day one. They also packed student belongings, they prepared residential spaces, and they assisted with the setup of social distance space. So as you can tell, I hope you can tell, I'm just really, really proud and honored to work alongside all of these fabulous folks. And I'm personally indebted to all of them for what they have done and continue to do and they do so well for our organization and facilities, for the Division of Administration, and for the university. So thanks to all of you, all of these 43, as well as the balance of the facilities organization for the exceptional work and dedication to Vanderbilt University. Turn it back over to you, Eric.
Well, thank you, Mike, and other members of the team for those outstanding moments of recognition and really eloquent and heartfelt and meaningful statements about our wonderful team. So I'll just conclude. We are right on time today. So thank you, team, for staying apace. All of the people that were recognized today will receive a Service Champion Award piece here. There's a picture on the left, as well as I think one of our squirrel posters that I think sums this up really, really well. We are in this together, and we wouldn't be where we are without all of you. I too am just honored and humbled to have the opportunity to work with such an amazing group of people. And once again, thank you for being here today. Take care.